Welcome to ABMC webinar. We're excited this evening to have you all available and sharing your time over here. So I'm sure as we continue, we'll definitely have more participants joining in. We had over 176 participants registering for the webinar as of today in the afternoon, which is impressive. And we thank you, all of you who are joining us from wherever location you are. So if you can be able perhaps to pop in 2 or 3 messages, we'll be able to see where you're joining us as I take this opportunity to start the webinar. So glad to see Sarah on board, Yemi, Ola, myself as well, and Dr. Dixon. Margaret as well from ABMC. Glad to see you all. My name is Joseph Bugo. I'm the CEO at ABMC International. And we took this opportunity to create a forum where we can be able to bring participants and practitioners across Africa in HR scenario to be able to sit down and perhaps share ideas, discuss, have a forum whereby we can be able to channel out what is happening across the world and what we can be able to benchmark from others. We have a variety of panelists joining us this evening from Kenya, from Europe, from West Africa. We had another participant who was supposed to be joining us from Middle East. Hopefully he's going to be able to join us as we proceed. So it's a good vibe, and we're able to get to understand what is happening across the world, and also to be able to get those snippets and ideas of how to manage our critical factor, which is the employees who we manage on a day-to-day basis. So I am an employee of my own company. I have employees as well. And every one of us is at home, not working because of the current pandemic. So this is a wonderful opportunity to sit down, share those ideas, which we would not ever been able to get to meet each other through this particular medium, and be able to discuss ideas and challenge each other on how best we can be able to get out of this pandemic, and even as we get out of the pandemic, how we can be able to put our best foot forward in terms of ensuring we manage the crisis. So with me this evening, I have Dr. Dixon, who is my chair for this event, and I would like to hand over this particular session, and more so to also bring in the idea that it's an open forum. Let's share as much as possible. The chat panel is open. You can be able to share as many ideas as possible. At the end, we're going to have a panel, and we'll be able to give open opportunity for everyone to ask questions, and we can be able to interchange. So with those few remarks, welcome Dixon. I hope I was loud and clear and you can all hear myself from this end.
Thank you, Joseph. Welcome everybody. My name is Dixon, and I'll be your moderator for the webinar today. And let me first of all introduce the features of Zoom. At the bottom of your screen, you will see some tabs. You will see the question and answer tab. You will see, it depends on the version of Zoom you're using, you will see the chat. With the chat, you should be able to introduce yourself like Joseph have already told us. Write your first name and the country from where you are signing or joining us. Please write, let's do that now. Write your name and the country you are joining from. That's the first assignment we have for today. We're going to use poll when the panelists want to ask us to join a particular poll. So please, let's start with the first assignment. Your name, first name, and your country. Let's do that for the next 10 seconds. Great. I know many of you are joining from various parts of the world. Let me start with asking you to get your name introduced. As soon as you've done that, then we'll move to the next one, which is, I would like to share some guidelines that will enable us to get the best out of this webinar. And one of the first things I'm going to be sharing with you is number one, please kindly mute your microphone and your video, so that we will have less distractions throughout this period. Mute your microphone and your video. Please help me do that now. Thank you. Great. Let me give you a little bit of short introduction of how we are going to be operating throughout this remaining part of this webinar. First of all, I will be introducing the facilitators or the panelists. I will introduce them and I'll ask them a question and I'll give them 10 minutes to explain or to talk and share their perspective and best practice in the area of the topic they are handling. Then when they finish, we'll move to the next one, to the next speaker, to the next speaker, to the next speaker. When we're done with all the speakers, we're going to have a 15 minutes question and answer. So I will advise that when a speaker is speaking, kindly write down your question using the question and answer tab. Write down your question using the question and answer tab. And I will pick up those questions during the Q&A period. Okay? Okay, great. Please use the question tab and write your name. Let me start with, how did we get here? How did we get to where we are today? For many, there has been no event in history that has impacted the globe the way the pandemic, COVID-19 has done today, that all of us are all locked in, or we are in curfew, or we are in one form of restriction or the other. And it caught most people unawares, from corporate to individual organizations, from individuals, organizations, and the general public. All are affected. Many organizations did not make such provision in their contingency management plan. And there has been a lot of hypotheses from a lot of people. When you listen to the social media and news, some people said so much things about the pandemic. Some people say it's man-made. Other ones say it is spiritual. Some other ones say they say it's something that they cannot explain. So, but basically what is coming out of it is that there's fear, there's panic, there's unforeseen needs, both for organizations and their employees and the general public. So there are many questions that HR practitioners are asking. They're looking for help. They're looking for opportunities to network and to collaborate with other practitioners to know how to handle all the challenges that are coming as a result of this crisis. Thanks be to God for ABMC, who have decided to assemble speakers and professional HR leaders from various parts of the world who are today with us to speak to us from different angles and perspectives on different areas of the challenges we are currently having. Without much ado, I will first of all introduce our first speaker for the day. Well, our first speaker for the day is Olabimpe Shangowawa. She is an international HR leader with huge wealth of experience, especially in Africa and in Europe. She's currently based in the Republic of Ireland, from where she consults for various HR business solutions. She is a global professional HR resources GPHR. She's also senior certified professional of SHRM. She is a head job evaluation and accreditation specialist, certified facilitator of FBTI. She's also certified with or by Conferring Leadership Architect, certified ProC, a member of various professional bodies. Let's welcome Olabimpe Shangowawa. Welcome, Bimpe.
Thank you.
I want to ask you a question. Looking from the humanity side, how can HR manage employees in times of uncertainty?
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I mean, that introduction was a bit of a trumpet blow, so I'm going to share my screen and I would like everyone to tell me. Thank you. So just to get to the crux, Dixon has already given us a very good intro. You know, this took us all unawares, employees, employers included, HR included. Nobody was prepared for this. You never prepare for this kind of pandemic. So I'm just going to go briefly, very briefly on the current reality that we all face today in the life of COVID-19 or in a day of COVID-19. I'll talk about HR's new role, and then I'll really zone into the practical approaches that I've learned from other organizations and things that other organizations are adopting successfully, which is where I think it will help you the most. So before we go into that, I want to do a quick poll, if you all don't mind, just to be sure where we are all at. I want to know if you're all on lockdown or you're partial lockdown or this doesn't affect you at all. Joseph, can you share the poll? Is that possible for the people to? Okay. It should come on the screen now. Great.
Yep.
So could you answer just the first poll? My current work reality is my city is on full lockdown and I work from home. My city has partial movement restrictions or curfews and I work from home partially. Or my city is minimally impacted by COVID-19 and I work at my office premises, meaning I still commute to work. Yeah. Just poll one. You should just be doing the first poll for now so we don't get ahead of ourselves. So we'll end that in the next maybe 15 minutes or seconds, I beg your pardon. Oh, great. So everyone is on partial. Okay, great. So that means I'm speaking to a mixed population here, meaning some of you already know the realities I'll be talking about and you're practicing some of these things, and some of you are just gearing up to the next phase of COVID-19. That is if it hits your city as bad as it has hit some European cities where I. So moving on to the next slide. Okay. We're having some delays with the internet. So the general realities, as we all know, is that it impacts business. So profitability for most businesses has gone down, except for people that do maybe online delivery services, offices like Amazon, organizations like Amazon. But most businesses have huge impacts on their business revenue, impact on employees at home and at work, and we'll go into that later. There's an urgent need for creating a psychologically safe workplace for the employees. And when I mean safe workplace, I don't mean the physical workplace, but the environment where they can address their emotional challenges. There's a huge demand now on all of us to still support and promote a resilient workforce that's delivering results. And then we all need to learn how to lead through, the irrational and rational side of this crisis. So long story short, we know it's no more business as usual. So the employees' realities are, they're just the list you see before me, but not limited to. So there's health risks. People are reacting to change in different ways emotionally. People are afraid for job security. People are not as aware as they should be, even very educated people, because there's so much information in the news, in the media, social media, some information inaccurate, driving fear in some of our employees. Then, people's inability to integrate work requirements with their home life. So you have people working from home with young children, people working from home with teenagers that are bored, people working from home with elderly parents, people working from home with people they're about to divorce. I've heard of that case and going to work was a safe place for them. So the home was not designed to be a workplace. We have all those challenges that we as HR need to do as possible. Then the shifting work demands. For some, work has increased in terms of workload. For some, work has reduced. For some, because of stress, their decision making is so impaired. And then there's some of us that have lost maybe loved ones in our organizations, or people that have really contracted the virus. So many issues surrounding areas around an employee that we would have previously said that was private, was none of HR's business. It is now all HR's business if we want our employees to be stable and to still deliver on priorities in this year, 2020. I have drawn a hard line here on crisis management and frameworks for health maintenance and vacation management. I'm not going to talk about those, but these are still some of the realities that our employees are facing. So the second poll I would really like us to do very quickly is, where am I in this crisis as an individual employee? So even though I'm HR, I am still an employee. I'm still a human being, and I'm facing my own challenges. So Joseph, if you could share that poll quickly. I want us to click whether we're in shock, we're in denial, we're angry, we're confused, we're depressed, we're in crisis mode, or we finally just accepted that, okay, COVID-19 is here to stay for a couple of months. So if you could do that poll quickly for me, I would appreciate. Thank you. Shock.
That's the poll number 2.
Yes, number 2. Thank you for that, Joseph. So maybe we could close it in the next 5 seconds. All right, thanks. So some are still in shock, confusion. Okay, so you're at the very right webinar, because I see confusion is the largest group here. I don't see anybody in denial. Confusion and anger about, you know, many plans that we made in our teams for the year, and this is very understandable. So moving to the next topic, so that we can talk about the things that could help us manage some of these emotions that we too are facing as HR employees. I can't seem to transit my slide. There's a challenge here. I don't know. Do you guys hear me? Dixon, do you hear me?
We hear you.
Great.
We can hear you clearly.
The screen is freezing from time to time, so participants, please do bear with us. You know, everyone is on Zoom. Everything is virtual in this day and age, so we'll face some technical hitches from time to time. So here, I wanted to quickly talk to you first as HR practitioners that we're going to use the oxygen mask principle here. You know, when you're flying, usually, after the air hostess takes you through the health and safety guidelines, they always tell you that if you're with a child or an elderly person, you use the oxygen mask for yourself first before you help anybody that is with you. And this is what I want to first charge all of us with, that self-care and self-awareness for us is very important, regardless of where you are in focus at this change. You know, you need to care for your own mental state. You need to know how you are feeling and get help before you can really effectively support others. So I've written here, you know, a couple of methods that are tried and tested by you that you think will support you, for you to go and unburden to before, you know, you start to really get into the nitty-gritty of your work. So you can contact your mentors, your coaches, your peers, families and friends, and spiritual guide, whoever it is that works for you. But you need to, first of all, get your oxygen before you feed employees. And then when we now want to focus on what HR needs to do, it's we're moving from what we are typically known for, to be a strategic business partner, somebody who manages policy, to become an employee advocate and a wellness champion. We're moving from just having the basics, the minimum for wellness, to having a full holistic wellness program that will cover many needs that you never imagined. We're moving from being rigid to being very flexible, and this is where the humanity comes in. And we're also moving from a generic one-size-fits-all to a specific case-by-case, because what happens for Joseph is not going to be what happens for Mary. Everybody's going to have very unique circumstances, unique challenges in this whole crisis as we go on from day to day. And at the end of the day, if we manage to transit to the new role that we should be as HR, we will see that we start to cater to financial, health, emotional, and physical needs of our employees. Now, I quickly did a quick check to know what humanity was, because this was a question Joseph and his team posed to me. And it's really the quality of being humane, having a bit of benevolence. Not to say that HR did not have this before, but we were always trying to balance this more with being a strategic partner and meeting business needs. And I tried to put it in 3 buckets of some of the practices that you may need to focus on at this time to be more human and to put the humanity in HR. And it comes under communication, wellness of our employees, and I think the biggest after communication is the line manager's capability, because HR cannot be in every team and every meeting and be everywhere at the same time. So we'll quickly look at communication, and I'll go really fast because I know we've lost some of our 10 minutes. So the first thing we need to look at is awareness. Awareness for our employees. What is COVID? What is WHO saying? What are the governmental health and safety guidelines? What are the useful websites that are authentic for them, you know, because of all the news paraphernalia that we're facing right now? What is our own organization's response to the crisis? What is our statement? We need to have a statement of what it is we're going to do. Are we working from home? What is the support that's going to be available to employees at this time? How are we managing leave? How are we managing loans, whatever? But we need to have the organization's response to the crisis. Then tips for differentiating fake news, fear mongering on social media. I think this is very important because this has become a big challenge to everyone, not just people who work in organizations. Then the communication channels and information cascade. How do we cascade information? You need to have a blended approach. You're going to use everything that you have in your organization, your intranet, your email, SMS, social media, if you have this. You're going to also use virtual town halls, you know, cascade information with total company, maybe your CEO or GM or MD or whoever leads your organization will have a virtual town hall with everyone. Then functionally, you can cascade, maybe HR department or function will do, finance function will have its own. Then you can cascade lower to the teams and other smaller communities. Then whilst you're doing all this communication, HR needs to be at the forefront of creating a very consistent narrative across board for all the town halls, all the group sessions, so that they're all speaking the same language, so that information is not fragmented and people don't get even more confused than they are. Then we need to also create very separate mechanisms for confidential concerns. So this is where we really get to be more human than we already are. So we could have an alias mailbox or a special point of contact for HR where people can send, you know, emails to on things that are, you know, concerning them. We need to build the line manager's capability for them to be able to deal with their team members' concerns. And then the main rule of this game right now is empathy. This is not the time for us to be business champions or for us to be martyrs for saving costs. It's empathy and listening. And then we need to roll out lots of, not lots, but very effective webinars for anxiety management and emotional management, and provide, you know, opportunities for counseling. So at the end of the day, we just want employees to be able to differentiate the right information from the noise out there, and they know where to go when they have any needs, you know, or concerns. If we look at wellness, wellness is very broad. We can't talk about it on this call fully, but what I'll say is, first of all, you need to diagnose all the facets of the wellness needs of your organization, ranging from physical all the way to spiritual. What do your employees need? Based on the data that you receive from this diagnosis, and we do have some tools available that we can share with you later, you need to focus on the quick wins. You can't do everything. Just look at the easily modifiable behaviors and quickly let your employees have these things available to them as possible. Then the working from home and remote working flexibilities, you know, start time, you know, guidelines as to when they work, how they work, when does everybody need to be in the office, when I mean office virtually, what are the home demands? You need to consider those that have children, parents, like I said earlier, and then psychological needs as well. You might want to consider getting external providers who can provide counseling and psychotherapy. There are lots of people giving freebies right now, pro bono efforts, because everybody's socially responsible. They're not charging, so you can explore that in your country. And also crafting reassuring messages on job security. And if anyone has to lose their job, try to provide alternatives to job loss, maybe salary cuts, or maybe you can re-engage them after the COVID-19 crisis has ended. Then be bereavement is a big case that could tie back to psychotherapy for anyone that may be losing loved ones or who has somebody that has contracted the virus. And then people have planned vacations if it's in in Africa and Europe here, and lots of people are very upset about their derailed vacation plans. So you may need to have a plan about that. Maybe you ask them to submit new dates and also to get the vacation cost of the company books. So ultimately, we want to focus on employee care here, and we want employees to participate in all the wellness programs that we have, and that's what we really want to achieve. And if we can even extend some of the wellness programs to their family, that would even be perfect. And then finally, for line manager capability, this is the biggest win. And here, you can't do this by just talking to a line manager. You can see I've written here that the key success factor is you need to create toolkits and talking points for your line managers. And business partners or HR managers need to have one-to-one coaching or pre-sessions with line managers to equip them so that they can deal with their teams, because they're going to have frequent check-ins with their team members. They're going to have to trust their team members more and empower them to deliver on priorities. They're going to have to give their team members space to discuss issues that are non-work related, like issues happening at home. So listening skills, watching out for non-verbal cues, empathy is very key for line managers. And if we have very autocratic line managers, this is where HR makes a difference. This is where we can coach our line managers to drive this change with us effectively. Team meetings as well will change. Line managers need to learn how to manage virtually. You know, they need to be creative. Anything they were doing face-to-face, how do they translate it to virtual meetings? If they used to have coffee, they used to celebrate birthdays, if they used to have Monday morning meetings, how do you translate this to a virtual environment? And then the biggest crux of the matter is managing performance and talent management. So the line manager also needs to be coached that he's moving from managing things that don't matter to managing things that matter. So managing time to output, you know, managing new joiners very closely, making sure they have bodies, because if you have a new joiner in this time, that person will be disengaged, will be confused, and possibly even get depressed as well, because nobody will be focusing on them because of the crisis. But these are some of the key things that you need to call out to your line managers. And then you would see that some of your high potentials dipping in their performance or in their potential to be talent. And then some people that are not even high potentials are beginning to show signs of high performance just because they work better in crisis management. So these are some of the key things I've noticed from some of my colleagues that they're pulling out and dealing with in this crisis, and you need to also consider as you're planning your change. Now, ultimately, we want line managers to be able to manage a variety of team situations because, like I said, HR can't do everything. And then we want the teams themselves to be productive. We don't expect high productivity, but at least we want high morale, and we want them to be engaged. So I've ran that like a fast-moving train because of time. I'll answer questions at the end of the full session. I have some resources that could help you get toolkits, get ideas from some of the things I've said, but I think I'll end here. Thank you very much.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Olabimpe. We really do appreciate that wonderful presentation. We're going to be moving on to the next speaker, and our next speaker is Yemi Fashion. Yemi is HR professional and a career advisor, top 501 most fabulous global HR leader. He's top 150 global HR influencers, top 8 HR thought leaders in Africa. Seth Robbie, top 50 LinkedIn personality, elected council member of Chartered Institute of Personnel Management, Nigeria. Yemi is best in West Africa, Nigeria. You're welcome, Yemi. Now, Yemi, I want to ask you a question that the audience will want to hear from you. Why does HR innovation matter in times of crisis? And what should HR be doing in times like this? Over to you, Yemi.
Okay, thank you so much, Dixon. Let me try and share my screen now. Just a second. And can I quickly say that what we are discussing right now is probably a couple of months a bit late for HR people. This is where we should have been before COVID-19 hit us. Alliance partners to the business, we should have been thinking beyond just, we should have been on the business that we supported, and we should have been at a place where the technological advancement that was happening within the space of business should have informed the way it. So a couple of things were already happening. Technology was taking over the business. Robots were taking over. We're talking about artificial intelligence, and we found out that so many of our colleagues in HR were still a bit slow in grappling with the innovation that they should have been involved with over a period of time. But what has really happened now in the last 3, 4, 5 weeks is that COVID-19 catapulted us into where we should have been. Yes, I agree, nobody was waiting for a pandemic globally, nobody. But the point is, there are 3 sets of people that I see who are grappling with the realities right now. And the level of preparedness of each of the 3 groups is a function of how they are relating or reacting or responding to the present situation. So there were some individuals who were ready. They were ready for the new world, for the future of world that we have been talking about for the last 2 or 3 years. And that future of work, if you ask me, changed to the now of work sometime last year. But some people were still not prepared. They thought it was 20 years away from now, and they were not ready. There were the second group of people who were ready. They were getting ready on a gradual basis. They were putting things in place, both within the space of HR and also within the space of business. And they were getting business and HR ready with enough capabilities to answer the technological questions that were coming up. And the third set of people were just watching and saying what's going on. If you ask those individuals right now, they don't have an idea of how to respond. And I'm talking about HR people. What we see from time to time is that these individuals are running. So I was saying that 3 sets of individuals, right? So it's a bit slow, so just bear with me. 3 sets of groups of individuals, those who were ready with the gradual technological advancement that was happening around the world. They were ready and they were not caught unawares. The second group were the individuals who were executives that they are running from one consultant to some of their colleagues to answer the kind of questions that they are seeing given the COVID-19 situation. And the third set of people were guys who were they just couldn't be bothered. And I promise you, those set of guys are losing the battle right now from an HR or people perspective because they were just not ready. HR has evolved. We have evolved from the personnel management to strategic HRM, the industrial revolution, but 2020 and beyond was really asking HR already in the last 2 years a couple of questions around what can we do with technology to support the business. And like I said, COVID-19 just catapulted everybody like 20 years ahead, and we're still battling with some of the issues that were coming out of it. Okay, if I move on quickly, the transition is a bit slow, so just bear with me. The transition is slow. Okay, so I'll just keep talking, it might come up. Now, there were things that were already asking the questions for HR to be innovative. Issues around rapid urbanization, and this was a global issue. Things around shifts in global economic power. Some power is losing the battle right now. The other power seems to be gaining. And as HR individuals, we should have been watching those spaces as they affect the new place of work. There were things around resource scarcity and climate change. Those things were not just impacting communities and our world, they were also beginning to impact who was getting ready for the new world. Those were things that should be, if I could use the expression, enabling us to answer some of the questions that were happening around the world. And of course, we had the technological breakthroughs. So many of us, maybe not so many, a couple of us will have seen the video of the recruiting car, for instance. This was about 2 years ago, where a car was recruiting its own technician in the HR space. So we saw the artificial intelligence possibilities, we saw chatbots, virtual realities, we had the wearables, and the questions that HR should have been asking itself in the workplace. How is this impacting my function? And how is this impacting Okay, can you still hear me? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
go on.
Yes, go on.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so thank you. So a couple of things that we're dealing with from the HR space. We're dealing with lack of trust and empowerment from leaders of the business. The challenges of HR now. HR was grappling with trust and some level of understanding with business leaders. And some of the suggestions we're bringing to the table, they were not accepted, and HR accepted that, and then we moved on. There were issues around unsupportive culture. I mean, those were challenges, but it didn't mean that HR needed to sit down and just accept the situation as well and therefore do nothing. But those were situations on ground, realities on ground. We had issues of agility. Some businesses were becoming very agile and becoming very responsive to the changes going on. Others were not. The understanding of business by HR professionals, from where I sit, I'm not sure that we could say that it was deep enough to understand how technology was impacting the business and therefore how HR needed to respond. Those were the things that were holding us back and were therefore a bit slow in responding to the challenges that were coming. However, there were some things that we needed to know. Number one, gamification, augmented reality, big data, chatbot. All these were happening, and we must say that some people, looks like some people outside of HR were becoming professionals in HR and taking over the things that we should do. So HR was a bit slow in responding to realities on ground, and therefore it was not able to respond from an innovation perspective. But what I think is this, as I begin to run down, what I think is this, that the COVID-19 situation we find ourselves in right now is almost a masterclass for everybody in HR to rise up to the occasion from all areas of the value chain of HR. It's affecting the way we are looking at recruitment right now. It's affecting the way we are relating with employees, changing the culture of the workplace. It's changing, it's changed. It's going to change going forward how we see performance management. It's going to change drastically our reward philosophies in our organizations. So the HR that is waiting for the post-pandemic era before responding will again probably be on the losing side. The time to start looking at the very important levers of HR to support the business is now. So that come first thing Monday, what is up the proposals based on the lessons we are learning right now and the new skills and the new challenges that we are facing, and therefore the possibilities that will happen post-pandemic. That is a situation. We must not sit and think that COVID-19 will come and go, and that is the end of HR innovation. It is going to be a continuous exercise. So it is COVID-19 today. It's probably going to be something else tomorrow. However, we cannot separate the realities the businesses are facing from a technology perspective from what HR itself is going through. If we don't relate perfectly with technology to change the business, then there is no way HR can effectively support the business.
Thank you so much, Yemi, for that presentation. Okay. Thank you so much. We do really appreciate that insight you've shared. And we're going to move on to our last speaker for the webinar, which is Sarah Richsing. Sarah is a double award-winning global speaker and trainer, a human resource development expert, OD consultant, executive coach. Sarah is a voice for HR based in East Africa. We welcome Sarah to the panel. Now we have a question for Sarah, and that question is, why is it important to manage employees' emotions in times of crisis? And what should HR practitioners be doing in time like this? Over to you, Sarah.
Thank you very much, Dixon. I hope everybody can hear me. Excellent.
Yes,
Am I
we can.
clear? So today I'm going to talk to my fellow HR practitioners about why it's important to actually manage your employees' emotions. And remember, when we talk about the employee, we start from the CEO, who I usually call the Chief Executive Officer. However, he's the Chief Engagement Officer. So employee engagement becomes even more important at this time and day in terms of the way we want things to happen. So I just want to start with one analogy, and I usually talk about the disadvantage of safety. During this time, we actually look at staying safe, and everybody, all the messages around the world are telling us to stay safe, keep our employees safe and everything. Now, let's think about the African antelope, who can jump 10 feet high and 30 feet forward, yet can still be confined or imprisoned in a 3-meter perimeter wall. Why? If you can jump 10 feet high, definitely you can jump over this 3-meter wall. However, because of fear of the unknown. In fact, there are some people who will not even try to get onto a Zoom call. There are some people who will not even try to see what are the new ways of going forward in terms of their lives, living life anew, looking at new contracting, many new things. I know I've been teaching in this space for quite a while, talking about remote working many times, and I've seen some of you actually on the list used to tell me this will not work in Africa. Because just like Ola, I worked in the UK for like 20 years. I mean, coming back to Africa, I told people you will need to have workforce that can work independently in different places. I'm sitting right now in the living room with my 21-year-old daughter who's been homeschooling, and she also works and runs her company from the house. But whenever we tell HRs this, it used to be very difficult. And why? There's an emotional barrier to it. Many things that we see on the outside, I always say there's something called the 3 H's. The head, the heart, and then the hands. So what you do with your hands actually came from what has happened in your head, your thought process, your mindset. So your employees have a certain thought process that trickles into then what turns your heart. And when the heart is turned a certain way, that is what will deliver. So when we see things as results, we push for delivery within organizations. Many things that a coach will be dealing with, a mentor, a line manager, a HR practitioner, a CEO, is in 4 little letters, F-E-A-R. Please note this, which is fear. And this is what is the analogy of the African antelope. So one of the key things you need to do is to see the disadvantage of safety, and sometimes to be able to push employees to go a bit forward. So why do we need coping mechanisms at work, especially during this time of pandemic? One of the key things is people are still going around talking about working from home. I'm hearing it everywhere. I'm watching it on Facebook. I'm having phone calls with many executives, and they're talking about my employees are going to work from home. My employees are going to work from home. Please take note. People are not working from home. People are managing a crisis while trying to get work done. I repeat, you can take a note. People are managing a global pandemic, a serious crisis, while trying to get some work done. So for those of us who are still pushing numbers, and we are forgetting we're in one of the worst crises we'll ever see. For those of us who are pushing focus on work, the boss, the client, and everything, and forgetting that our employees actually need to be managed through this crisis while we are asking them or requesting and encouraging them to put in some work. Because different personalities, different backgrounds, different people manage emotions in different ways. And that is something we need to work on. We need to get out of the rat race mentality and understand Sarah is at home. Imagine maybe her daughter is sick, her mother is also sick in the next room, her brother has just been rushed to hospital and whatever. And these are real stories happening with employees now. And then the manager is busy calling you and asking, why didn't you pick the phone call? I've called you 3 times. So as HRs, please start educating the organizations to tell them employees are actually within a crisis. It's like somebody who's taken sick leave to go and deal with a pandemic or a crisis in their village or their home. They would ask you for leave to go and deal with that, and then you're still calling them every 2 minutes. So it's very important that we realize what comes first is the crisis is happening, then we are getting our employees to work through that time, and they'll be very emotional. They will be so emotional. Sometimes they don't even want to pick that phone. Sometimes they don't even want to speak to somebody for a whole day. They are dealing, and we need to understand how to help them deal and how to manage ourselves through dealing as well. Now, many people think when you're going through emotions, you'll be going through 1 or 2 emotions. Many of us don't even know how to name the emotions we are feeling. I mean, I ask Ola, oh, today, how are you? How are you feeling? The automatic mechanical answer is, I'm fine. And you can see through her smile and her eyes are disconnected because the eyes are not smiling, but the mouth is smiling because that is what the world requires us to do, especially the world of work. So it is so important we understand people are going through multiple emotions. When I teach emotional intelligence, I talk about primary emotions, secondary, peripheral emotions. I mean, you can even get a pay rise right now and be sad at the same time as you're excited. You can be confused, angry, but also positive at the same time. So it's important that we start really getting and understanding people will be going through multiple emotions at a time, and they need time to be able to pause and to think through them. And remember, during this crisis, they are pausing a lot and really thinking about it. And the first thing you have to realize as well is every employee is working more than 1 job. So they are working for you, and they are also working at home. I can tell you from my own experience, I have 6 children. I am managing all these kids. I have several, I'm an entrepreneur, so several businesses I'm working with, different projects from my consulting firm. Everybody is pulling at you, and you need to be mom, you need to be executive, you need to be colleague, you need to be sister, friend, whatever. So all this is too much for employees, and there's information overload. And so the emotions will be actually multiple. The other conversation that and I've attended a lot of our webinars and everything, people are not discussing money and financial related stress. This is actually a dignified and relevant conversation at this time. People, that is the biggest thing going on in their minds, whether you like it or not. Why are we still going to work? Why are people wearing masks or even struggling and risking their lives to deliver? It's because they still need to sustain their lives, pay their mortgage, pay their bills, pay for the future of their children, whatever it is. Even if, God forbid, somebody dies or is sick, you'll need money to manage. But on the other side, I also understand businesses are in cutthroat right now, wondering what to do to sustain and remain sustainable in terms of financial. So there's financial stress for executives, there's financial stress for employees, there's financial stress at home, there's financial, and I mean, I don't know for you, but for me, even the bills have gone up by staying at home. Having the entire family, you know, my daughter who lives at university is now in here. She wants to cook her own things, watch TV until 3 a.m. and whatever. Electricity bills are going up, water bills are going up. So this is a relevant conversation for you to be able to have with your employees, or to be able to coach your line managers to discuss it. You can't just fob them off and expect them to continue being productive. So during a crisis, we need to survive. And to survive, we need to watch how we respond. So help your employees to think of how they respond. For them to thrive, you need to think of how we all grow in this situation. The conversation of growth is very important. I always talk about financial currency and growth currency. In fact, many a times when I was practicing HR, I always used to recruit using growth currency. And so to thrive, there are many opportunities that are coming up for you even to see. As Ola said, there are new capabilities that are coming up. Femi also said it. So we need to remember that actually there are many opportunities during this time people can thrive in. And then you also need to help how we adapt and adjust ourselves, adjust our businesses. And this also coming, as I said, from the head, the heart, and then the hands. And then finally, how do we bounce back? Resilience is going to be one of the key things. And I would recommend a book on resilience. I think that was written by Sheryl Sandberg. After definitely the death of her husband, after she did, you know, the lean in and it got all the positive reviews and everything. And then obviously she goes and loses somebody. I just felt that is such a relevant read for HRs and for everybody right now. And I'm actually buying it and sending it to my friends and managers and everything on resilience. Resilience is not that you've not been through emotional drainage or shock or grief, but it's how fast you bounce back. Certain people bounce back within a minute. Certain people bounce back within a month. Certain people, it takes years to bounce back from grief. And those are things that we need to be very cognizant about. I always say that when you're looking at a successful organization, it is EQ plus IQ plus LQ. And many a times when I'm running a class, I ask, so what is LQ? Many HRs know what EQ is, which is emotional intelligence, the application of intelligence to your emotions. What is IQ? It's cognitive intelligence. But love quotient, LQ, is something that we need to really start having a conversation around. And the one thing I want to say, because I can't run a whole class on this today, is it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to question. It's okay to doubt. And it's okay for others to do so. If it's okay for you to feel that, please allow others the space to also feel the same way. Let us not think we are working with machines and we are working with people who don't care. So for you as a HR practitioner today, I just want you to understand that you do have 3 levels of your own emotional impact on other people. And it depends on 3 things. It's how you look as a visual aid. If you're having even a conversation now over Skype or Zoom or whatever with an employee, how you're looking at them, how you're trying to engage them, what you say, how you use your language, and how you use your tone. And I always tell people, I've told my teams before, and I tell many practitioners, even silence is a response. So when you're speaking to someone and they are silent, this is not the time to push and whatever. Take it as a form of response. Check your tone. Be very, very careful. I laugh when I tell people, and I mean, my daughters have watched me do this all the time because I worked 12 years in the UK from the house. I used to actually practice my tone. I have, for those of you who've watched me in a real, you know, live class or conference or whatever, I'm very energetic. My voice is shrieking. I'm shouting and whatever. And all I will tell you, in Europe, especially in the UK where I lived, when you're doing that, people are like, excuse me, please be polite. This is just you. And so it's important, again, to be okay to be you and to do you. Because if you're energetic, another employee is silent, another one is what, do not start judging them over that. Because emotions are running rife right now. Be multidimensional in your HR role, be accessible, and please try and be caring to your employees. Call them, access them, get people who can call each other, provide clarity as much as you can. Let me tell you, in times of anxiety, clarity is one of the key things around your multidimensional role. Be creative with your solutions. Don't say the policy says. Don't tell us management says. Please be creative as a HR practitioner in your solutions to your employees, especially where there's emotion. Please look at personal judgment and the energy that you give off on certain issues. If these times were normal, there's a certain route you would take. But because we are living in abnormal times, please use your personal judgment and check the energy that you evoke. And finally, as I've said, money is a relevant conversation. And so finally, let us look at what are some of the things that create those emotions. Have an open mind. Diversify work experiences for your employees. If somebody has been an excellent customer service, they can talk all day on the phone and they're telling you they're just drained, they can't do it anymore, job swap them, give them, diversify something else for them. As we've been told, train your line managers. I won't dwell on that. We've been given a fantastic, robust method of doing that. But more than anything, build a trusting culture. We are not going to survive without trust in these times. As your personal brand, as a HR practitioner, have 4 things. One is your character. People are watching you. Remember, you are the mother and the heart of your organization. The CEO could be the father and the head, or the mother and the head, but you are the heart of that organization. So your character, everybody is looking at you. If you're breaking down, everybody is breaking down. And you're listening to me because even at home, you can imagine as a parent, if you're breaking down during this crisis, then your children are breaking down. There's also substance. Still have substance in what you're saying. Have style and watch your style and the way you deliver your speeches, the way you write your emails, the way you communicate across, and finally, have a strategy for the future. And I hope with time, we will be able to look at many ways that you can have strategies for the future. And with that, I thank you so much. Over to you.
Wow, thank you so much, Sarah, for that wonderful presentation. I believe that the participants must have actually benefited, as I have also benefited from what you've shared. So we have a time now for question and answers, and I would like to start with the question. I think let me start. The first question, I suppose, is for Labimpe. Labimpe,
yep.
Are you there?
Yep, thank you so much. It's been quite insightful. Highly appreciated to the panelists for taking the time to join us and also to share their wonderful experiences. It's very informative in terms of where we are currently and also giving us a perspective of where to expect and more of these kind of setups are what are needed currently in terms of encouraging the professionals out there and also giving them insights in terms of how to go in terms of the day-to-day of managing employees. ABMC is currently doing a lot during this pandemic. We've been able to give a lot of online courses for free. And currently, if you go to our site, you'll be able to get access to some of the free courses that you're offering. Some of the courses which have been mentioned here are currently being offered for free. And over and above that, we're taking the initiative to also have these forums whereby we can bring in various panelists to come and discuss and give ideas and share knowledge. Thank you to Sarah, Ola, Yemi, and Dixon for giving us this opportunity. On the screen side, I also had...
And then it is not that you want to be a cost-cutting hero, but you have to cut costs either way. You are not calling for heroism, but the situation calls for this. So what is your suggestion and your perspective on this?
Of course, look, you always remain and continue to remain the business partner. If my presentation alluded to you not being one, that's my fault. I didn't communicate that clearly. But what I was trying to say is, yes, you will even do layoffs. There will be layoffs. There are sales jobs on the street that nobody's on the street right now. You have to pull them back in. But it's the how. First of all, how do you implement that layoff strategy? And then do you have some creative ways to maybe re-engage them after? Because I've heard of some organizations that maybe they are sales, business developers, people that are fit on the street. They've scrapped their contracts, but they plan to re-engage them later. That's one. Or, cutting salary, that's another. We have to think out of the box. Like Yemi and Sarah have just said, I don't have the answer to that, but being a business partner, that you must continue. But at the same time, you have to balance being an employee advocate. And the way you're an employee advocate is by putting to practice all these things, nice things Sarah just told us. And if I'm to say what are the skills that you need to do that, communication is one. Empathy under your communication is very key. The how. So don't look at just the what, because the what could be a big hammer. I tell you, and it probably will. But if it's the how you implement it and you deliver it, that humane side, and then they know your cost cutting, you have to. I've been involved in a big restructuring in my time in Nigeria, but we did so many things. We even had an ambulance downstairs. We had tissue paper in the room when we were doing the exit notification. We had outplacement programs for people in case they wanted to work with a supplier. Think out of the box. Nothing is off limits right now. COVID is new. So this is your chance to do something new and creative. All those plans that we've all been keeping in our drawer that will say, oh, my management will allow. Now is the time to bring them back and see, because they will allow, because the situation calls for it. So continue to be a business partner, balance it very well as an employee advocate. That's my point. Yeah, I hope it
Thank you, Olabimpe. There's another question. Anybody can check this question from the panelists. He said, how do you balance layoffs and employee engagement? I'm asking this because I know that with economic recession, there shall be such short-time and long-time layoffs. How do this affect the rest while enhancing engagement?
I can maybe share some perspective. And I'll just follow on to what my colleague has said. One of the key things you have to realize is, even in talent management, bounce, there are 4 B's, but bounce is one of them, which means we as HR should actually get used to being able to do that work where if talent is not working, you have borrowed, you have bought, you have built, it's not working, you have to bounce it off. And so we can just lean back to those, but it's the how at these times. So those who know what get the job, and they get the job done. But it's those who know how that get the job done well, and those who know why that are the bosses of those who know what and those who know how. So the why is very important to explain. When you're communicating anything, you need to explain why. If I'm telling my children, in Kenya, I mean, we have a green vegetable, Joseph and the rest from Kenya might know, called sukuma wiki. And so we eat this vegetable and children don't like it. They love to have meat and chicken. But if I have to tell them you're going to eat sukuma wiki the whole year, I need to explain why. Especially with our Gen Z and millennials now in the organization, you really need to have ways and platforms for them to be explained to why. So your communication around why is very important. When you're also looking into the future, you have to become creative. Look at your policies, but also look at what others are doing outside and what has worked. Having the revolving door. For me, when I used to work in organizations, I mean, I know I've done redundancies across like 26 countries, and the revolving door in terms of when somebody is exiting and you're telling them you can exit and still remain as a consultant in our pool, or you can come back and reapply for this job or another job the way you want. And what I was doing with the people who are staying while I'm doing redundancies or layoffs or VERs is to also have a succession plan internally, and it should be internal first. First refusal is for the ones who are remaining inside, something to keep them motivated. Another thing, I was talking with a client yesterday, they told me they are running something called Lift the Mood. So after you've done something like a VR or whatever, like they have a program every Friday or every 2 weeks, they have something called Lift the Mood. And managers are working, so there's money, there's savings that you're making in one place, and you can use them for employee engagement. And just finally, I want to tell you, engagement goes on 3 levels. The first is rational engagement. The second one is motivational engagement. But the deepest and toughest is emotional engagement. So make sure your top performers and the people that you want to retain are emotionally engaged. That means they trust you and what you're saying and doing.
Okay, thank you so much, Sarah, for that response. I think, okay, yeah, go on.
If I could add some perspective to that.
Yes, Yemi, go on. Let's listen to
okay,
Yemi.
I think
Yemi.
my position will be slightly different. And I'll say this again, that, okay, on a bit, and it will play to leadership. Leadership is going to have a very, very important role to play at this time. And the organization with level 5 sort of leadership will win the current war of talent that will follow the pandemic. Because how you treat people who are leaving the organization will be telling stories to the individuals who will stay. So there's going to be, post-pandemic, a new talent war out there. And that's because everybody's going to be saying or saying to themselves, how are we treating people at this point in time? And this is leadership from HR perspective and also leadership from the business perspective. If that level 5 leadership hasn't happened in any organization before now, given the situation, there will be a string individuals who are going to leave themselves after the situation is over. So this situation is calling level 5 sort of leadership to question at this point in time.
Thank you so much, Yemi, for that suggestion and that submission. Now, there's some 2 questions I would like us to take. Anybody can look at that. How well do we support employees working from home to cope with this change? So how can we support employees working from home to cope with this change? I know Sarah has mentioned something about how people are battling with so much working from home. What other suggestions do we have for supporting employees working from home to cope with the current change? Anybody can take the question.
Okay, so if I could just quickly give an instance of a young guy, owner managed business. who was having a conversation with me day before yesterday, and he said to me, Yemi, what can we do to support people from electricity supply perspective? Because it's not the best of times for some environment in Nigeria, and this is infrastructure. People do want to work, but there is no power supply. And he said, Yemi, we're going to give a sort of allowance to his employees. And this was a business owner already thinking about the impact of all of this on the employees. So I think that I hear what people say. It's going to be a balanced conversation between the employer and the employee. But I think, again, we can start looking at the little things that will show that we care for our employees. And when this is all over, the employees also will show that they care for the organization. I just gave an instance. It could be fuel allowance, it could be data allowance, it could be anything. Just time, like Sarah says, to show that we care for our employees.
Okay, great. Sarah, there's a question for you. I think you can respond to the question through the chat. What's the HR book on resilience? Please kindly respond through the chat so that they will know the name of the book, so that some of them can go and reach out for it. All right, and
can I throw some perspective as well on supporting employees working from home?
Okay.
Something I heard recently also is, you know, everybody's working from home, and working from home, like a friend told me, is a scam because you're working more. You think working from home is relaxing. People think because I have a couch or I can work on my bed. It's not the case, because you're constantly on meetings, constantly with screen time, constantly talking. Then you have kids to cater for, as Sarah just said. That is my situation exactly. My kids are burning everything burnable, eating everything eatable. I cannot wait for them to get out of my house. You know, so my point here for employees is that if they're sitting down day in, day out, working longer hours, because contrary to what some bosses think that people will laze around, they're not. We need to think of well-being programs that will support them. I heard of a company that's doing, I know this may not be the case in Africa, but we can think of what works for us. Yoga classes online, people that will help them to relax, to take a break, to get up and take a break, because sedentary mode of working in itself is another health hazard, you know. That's one point. Physical movement. Yemi spoke about petrol. Petrol brings fumes in your house, you know. How can we support people? Is there solar power that may be available soon? Because some places in Nigeria and in some places in East Africa, they're already focusing on that. So there are many, like I said, we just need to think out of the box, be creative, and look for even ways we can save money for the company and the employee as well. So data was something Yemi also said, for places where internet is not speedy, or maybe companies can partner, like in the estates where I live, they partnered with big telecom companies. They've put a big, I don't know what they call it, I'm not a techie person, router or whatever, installed it in the physical location so that people will have a speedier internet. So there are many things that you know, we can do for our employees depending on what's available in the countries that you're working in. Yeah, but just think out of the box. And like I said at the beginning, you need to do a diagnosis of what employees need now. And that could be done with a short survey, Survey Monkey, to look at many dimensions of well-being. And then through that, know what is the real low-hanging fruit, what are the key points for them to support them. But you cannot guess. You will only know if you survey, if you ask them, you get the data. When you get the data, you can decipher what solutions are effective and needed. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Olabimpe, for that question. We're going to take the last question because our time is fast spent. Before we take that question, please, Sarah, there's a question for you on the name of the book on resilience. Can you kindly write the name on the chat box for them? Okay, great. Thank you so much. And then the last one we want to ask is, are there tools that we can use to monitor output of non-transactional teams working from home? You know, like Olabimpe has said, we don't know really those who are working from home and those who are playing from home. So how do we differentiate those who are working and those who are playing from home? Is there any tool we can use in monitoring those non-transactional? You know, if you are having sell 20 phones in a day, we can get those ones, but you know how to get it. But there's some people whose job are not transactional. How do we monitor those outputs? Do we have any two question from anybody from the panelists who can take that? Yes, go on.
Let me give you a scenario, and maybe this will answer some of the people who are thinking about that. I was a global HR director in a technology company. And I mean, you can imagine in IT, we have all sorts of tools. We put in tools that can actually measure how many key runs that an employee is making, how many times they are taking a break and coming back again to continue working and everything. But in the end of the day, we wasted so much money on tools because we were not focused on performance, we were focused on attendance. Now, when people are working from home in this day and age, HR, please focus on performance. Be project-based. That's why I started with, you need to change your own mindset and your heart set, because these young people showed us Pepe. We used to even get them, we take their phones, we lock them in locker rooms and everything, and we shut down internet sites, and it goes up even higher. Our Wi-Fi bill and data bundles were going up. They would put even Trojans into it. So those things, HR, and you're not techies. Me, by the way, at least I'm a tech-savvy HR. I will tell you for sure. These tools you're looking for to monitor people, micromanage and granular management. You need to look at how do you build trust, as I said before, such that you have told Sarah, please deliver. Like Joseph said, guys, be here at 6 p.m. You're going to deliver this session. And we showed up. Whether he was monitoring, we will come, we will do what, it depends on the trust and culture that you're building. So this will show you a lot around your employees. Stop looking for tools to micromanage. Look to build a way that you give them a project and you give them a timeline. Time boxing, by they read in Google on time boxing. Time box a project, tell them this takes 4 days, this takes 3 hours. I want it delivered at this time, and leave them to, if they're doing it in the swimming pool, if they're doing it with their children cooking. And the other day I was taking 2 phone calls and cooking soup in the kitchen with my children making noise. So if somebody was micromanaging me, so those days of people who had ego-tripping management to want to manage everybody, this is not the time, honestly. Find a way to deliver, to get delivery-based performance, not attendance-based.
Yeah, like they say, manage output, not time. And I said that you have to just manage output now.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone. For participants, thank you. I want a last word for each of the panelists. What is the last word we are dropping for us as we end this webinar? Let me start with Yemi. Okay.
Okay. So I think my last words will be from the last question you asked. What I want to say is this: it's not just HR people that we have a message for from a micromanaging perspective. The managers in the organization, business managers who were micromanagers before the pandemic, they are losing the battle right now, or they have lost the battle. Because what it says to me is that you were not managing people by results, by objectives before the pandemic. Otherwise, you will not be looking at calling them in the morning, are you awake? In the afternoon, are you working? In the evening, have you closed? It's totally unnecessary. We should manage people by objectives. Like Sarah said, what are we expecting from projects? What are we expecting in terms of reports? What are we expecting in terms of updates? Manage people based on deliverables rather than tools to watch if they are working or not. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yemi. Olabikpe, do you have any word for us?
I don't know how to top that. I support them fully on that topic, but I'll just say again, I want to reiterate my oxygen mask principle. HR, we need to fix ourselves first before we can fix the organization. So we need to, first of all, get our own emotional, mental, everything right. Number one, then our skills and the way we view things, you know, this perspective of micromanagement versus managing by objectives, it starts with us. If we start to think that way, we can then coach line managers to think that way. So generally, our communication, our change management skills have to, you know, just improve. I don't know how, we can discuss that on another webinar, but it's something that we all need to work on. Our coaching skills has to fully improve. Communication, coaching, change management, very key for us at this time. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Olabimpe, for the time there. Sarah, do you have a word for us?
Yes, so for me, two things. In working from home, remember, what or who you are will be enhanced by working from home. So if you're a workaholic, you will work even longer. And that's the same for your employees. If you are lazy, this is the time you will find many SMEs, which is small and medium excuses from your employees or from yourself. So manage that. Look at ergonomics, check chairs for people, how they are sitting and whatever, because employees might come out of this with backaches, with bad sitting and everything. And finally, lead with heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I believe it's been a tremendous time we had together listening for the past 1 hour, and we want to thank all the panelists for their efforts and all their contribution and the perspective they have shared today with us. I want to advise the participants and thank them all, first of all, for participating and spending this time with us. All the questions you've asked, we may not be able to answer all of them, but please, I'll send the questions on the chat tab, and ABMC will be able to get an answer across to you as he liaises with the facilitators. Also, I'll give you a tip. All the panelists are all on LinkedIn. So try and connect with them and find a way of also continue the discussion so that you'll be able to benefit and share from the experiences. And they also will learn from you. And also, I'm also available to also learn from. And also, I want